All right, today I've got a PowerPoint presentation on a thing I was working on today. This is, well, there's a bit of a story behind this, and I'll explain what this is in a bit. But first, we're going to have to go back in time a little bit. So, a couple of years ago, I made a video on this thing right here, which is a 1 input, 256 output system, which, if you don't know what that means, it means that that one chest up there, that single chest, gets evenly, relatively, distributed among every single one of these 256 hoppers. And right now I've got a chest full of diamonds and I can show that pretty easily. This thing is a bit laggier than it can be nowadays because we need to use all these comparator clocks with the blinking dust. That's pretty rough, and you'll see in the new design that we have a much cleaner design. And this was kind of a proof of concept itself because I built this 256 output to demonstrate that my 1 input 16 output systems or 32 output systems were actually pretty expandable. And this system on a smaller scale actually has a very decent use case. I originally was designing it for a furnace array. That kind of never came to be in my 1280 furnace array. I'll link that in the description below. It's actually what these worlds are named off of and what I was trying to build years ago. We actually ended up building the furnace array successfully like a year after this, but the point being was I designed these for that because we needed to distribute a large amount of items very quickly, and that's exactly what these systems do. So on a smaller scale, they can be useful. Dispensing, a bunch of these items is about 40 items a second, and it's really, really nice. I can't demonstrate that because I don't have any minecarts in here, but the point is we've got the 256 output is a bunch of those 16 outputs chained together. In this case, we've got 16 of those. So when I go back to the other world, it might make a little more sense what we're actually looking at. And that's effectively 4 256 output machines. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way right now as a massive disclaimer slash middle finger to you guys. I know it's not practical. This is not for anything. I didn't design this for any other reason than to just do it to see if I could. It was a proof of concept. A lot of people have made comments like, I mean, really that. Those are the two questions people want. What is this for and why are you doing this? And for fun. That's all of the answers. It's also kind of a proof of concept because I knew that you could take this 256 output module, which distributes 2.3 million items an hour, and you could scale it just like this. You can move it up with a row of minecarts, and the entity count in here is pretty intense. 2100 is a lot. I have an i7 7700K and a 1080 in my system, and I'm recording this video with a 1060. So I've got about all the juice I can put towards Minecraft going right now, and staring at this, I'm at 13 FPS. If you guys would like to traverse this world on a weaker machine, if you look away, your FPS will just skyrocket. It's actually very easy to just look away, look down. You can actually view the items just like this. What I have found, while a bit jarring, low FOV looks really, really great because you're never really loading enough minecarts to lag yourself out. So if you want to play on a low FOV, it's actually quite playable. But if you don't want to do that and or you want high FPS, always look away from the minecarts. So if you want to input a bunch of items, you might need to bite the bullet. But if you go from below and look up, it's actually quite playable. You can just whip them together just like so, and then watch them just drain. At full speed, this will be 20 stacks per second because there's 64 minecarts under there. Or it should be just a full... The chest should just empty instantly. But this thing is incredibly laggy. So now that I've inputted a full double chest of diamonds, you can see that they are, as I said, more or less evenly being distributed amongst everything. Minecarts aren't perfect, and I took a shortcut in this. So to reduce the amount of entities, in certain situations, I put stacks of like 8 minecarts together when I probably needed 16. The reason being is these 16 outputs are 4 minecarts being held together by 4 minecarts with 4 minecarts. And then this minecart here, this stack, is actually covering 16 minecarts worth. So that needs to be 16, that needs to be 16, that needs to be 16, that needs to be 16. This stack needs to be 64, 64, 64, 64. I didn't do that. All of these minecarts leading up was actually 16 minecarts, and most of these minecarts are between 4 and 8 stacks. So in many situations, I actually put in about half as many minecarts as I needed to be for this to be a true full speed 1024 output. But it's already so laggy that if I added as many minecarts as it would have taken to do that, I don't think most people would be able to actually appreciate it. Even with all of that being said, I don't believe that too many people would be able to run this. And then, as I was saying earlier, we have a much sleeker design for the distribution. So back when the previous design was made, observers didn't exist. They weren't in the game. So now that they are, I'm pretty happy to show that we can use a really slick system of observers powering droppers. Now, this will fan out in kind of a triangle section and power way more observers than they should. I wasn't, at least on the spot on stream, able to really come up with much better than that. But what I did do is I made sure that this one clock was powering all of these rails evenly, and on all 4 sections, it does the exact same way. So long as you're powering all of these in rows and they're all evened out, I haven't seen it have too many problems at all. So that's why I did that. And unfortunately, unlike the 256 output system, it's not smart in that I'm not reading out every single output. I'm actually just reading from the sides here, because to have a flat design like this, there's physically no more space to actually read out from those droppers. So it's kind of an estimate. This system is powering them very long. I mean, it's getting 99% of the items out at least, but I can actually still hear it clicking. Oh, you know what? That piston left its block behind. That's interesting. Here, let me just pull it back. There we go. Oh, I fell down. All right, so that just about covers it. I'm not really sure what else to say on this. It's a massive proof of concept. In that video 2 years ago, I did issue a 1024 output system as a challenge, and nobody ever did it. So as far as I'm aware, this is the first of its kind, and in a practical sense, should remain the only of its kind. I cannot imagine anybody going further than this. If you want the challenge, the 4096 would be the next natural progression. You could build 2 of these side by side and try to chain them together and put a chest at the top, but it would be easily, I'm not kidding, easily 4,000 minecarts, unless you cut back like I did. To do that. Even this, at 2,100 entities, should be closer to 3,000, but like I said, because I cut back on these stacks of minecarts so heavily, we saved on a few hundred entities. So, yeah. I actually did it as a challenge, and nobody did it, so this should be the only of its kind. And as I said, it's not really anything more than just a bunch of minecart chains. These are just being held together by groups of minecarts, bringing it up to a central point, bringing it up to a central point. And if you were to do the 4096, you would clone exactly as this is 3 more times, and then you'd build bigger branches leading up, and it would be a huge mess. If you would like, for God knows why, some kind of tutorial on this, I'll link below the stream where I designed this, because every block you see here was placed in that stream. Now, I did start with the 2056 output, the 2000... What am I saying? The 256 output, I started with that and then kind of worked away from it. But yeah, basically your tutorial would be there. So yeah, thanks to Seth Bling for making Bling Edit, because that saved me a ton of time building this. Honestly, that tool alone made a lot of this much easier. Unfortunately, it does not work with minecarts, so that's why the stream is over 5 hours long, but that's it for me, you guys. Hope you enjoyed this quirky little creation. It's probably the laggiest thing I've ever built, but I will put myself just like this in the world download, facing my rainbow. If you want that, it's in the description, that resource pack. It's the ultra, whatever it is, the photorealistic one. I'm going to leave it just like this. So if you guys have a weak computer, try to not look at the minecarts. So long as you don't look at them, it should be fine. It should be fine. Like I said, low FOV is a thing you can try. But that's it for me, you guys. Thanks for watching.